an addendum to my last video on Airwindows Console8. I didn't have time within my 15-minute limit to do an A/B test, which seems to be called for. So here we go. You can see that I have, on each track, I have Console8 channel in and channel out bypassed. Whoops, that was the oscillator, the testing oscillator. Okay, see, in, out, bypassed, and at the auxiliary track or bus level, all the sub-ins, sub-outs bypassed. This is purest gain. It's okay to stick an instance of purest gain before bus in. That's why it's called purest gain. I might as well just leave that on. Safety net for YouTube. Why not? Actually, I don't need that here. I'll turn that off as well. But bus in, bypassed, bus out, bypassed. So we have the whole Console8 routing architecture bypassed. And I'm not going to play through the whole song. In fact, I'll just pick, let me see. I'll just, I'll start right there. Not quite at random, but more or less just clicked in at random there. And I'll hit play. I'll play like 20, 30 seconds of it. And then I'll go back into the console view and switch the Console8 plugins back on. And I'll run the same pass. And you decide. Okay, here we go.
Battle between blue and gray. Before we knew it, a bullet found its way into your chest. I was left alone to carry all the love we professed. I draped your lifeless body over your steed, leading you both back home with me. We rose from the ashes, carrying letters we held. Our mission was clear in the wilderness where we dwelled. We ride all day, sometimes through the night, making love when we rested by campfire light. Was it supposed to end this way? I went to your family with your blood so bathed.
Okay, I went on for a little bit longer than I planned, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pause and switch the Console8 plugins back on, and we'll play it again. Okay, so as you can see, I've got all the Console8 plugins re-enabled here. And now I'll just go back into track view, hit play again, play the same section. And this is actually the first time I've done this. So here we go.
You into a battle between blue and gray. Before we knew it, a bullet found its way into your chest. I was left alone to carry all the love we professed. I draped your lifeless body over your steed, leading you both back home with me. We rose from the ashes, carrying letters we held. Our mission was clearing the wilderness where we dwell. We ride all day, sometimes through the night, making love when we rested by campfire light. It wasn't supposed to end this way. I went to your family with your blood-soaked babe.
All right, so that's quite the difference from where I sit, you know. Anyway, well, okay, I should leave it at that, but I do want to make one more note here. You may not need to hear this, but I didn't know this when I started experimenting with this console system, and I was full disclosure, I use AI as a kind of power tool. It saves me having to scour through forums and the like, but you know, you've got to exercise due diligence with AI, and once in a while, it'll lead you down a garden path, or something not quite so pleasant as a garden path. And one thing that and I use Gemini, which is, in my opinion, better than Grok, but still got issues sometimes. And actually, for understandable reasons, it was telling me. Let me go back to my. Whoops. Let me go back to my. Doggone it. Let me go back to my console view. Okay, so it was insisting that in my chains between the Console8 in and out plugins, between the channel, what's a sub in, sub out, but there, and between channel in and channel out, it was insisting that I needed to maintain gain parity from the beginning of the chain to the end. In other words, start at minus 18 dBFS and calibrate each plugin in the chain so that by the end of the chain, my signal was still at minus 18 dBFS or whatever. The signal should leave the chain at the same gain at which it enters the chain. And I spent I got at least 2.5, 3 hours doing that. It was the most tedious, god-awful thing. It just sucked all the joy out of just why do you even do this in the first place? It was horrible. I hated it. And in the end, what did I get? I got a mix that was insipid, lifeless, worse than the muzak you would hear in the lobby of a dentist office. It was terrible. And I suspected as much all along. But I kept saying, why are you having me do this? I'm talking to the AI like it's a person. I was like, yeah, it's trying to tell me, you're moving beyond being a vibe mixer into being a professional. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not the way this is supposed to really work. But maybe I'm wrong. I try to maintain humility, because I'm so often wrong about stuff. So I followed that. that protocol, and it was just disastrous. In fact, I should have done a save as before, because I lost what I considered to be, and what Brian considered to be, a great mix, despite a routing error that I had made. He loved it, and for good reason. It was really cool. But yeah, so I had to go back and go back to vibe mixing with abandon, just like gain staging through the plugins until it, But it was cool because I was doing it on a foundation on this Console 8 architecture, and I learned a lot about a lot. Okay, I've never worked with a big desk. I've never actually done that work, so it is a really cool process. And by the way, you're looking at my my console view here. If I was a pro, I would tell you there's a pro tip in here. Since I'm not technically a pro, I won't call it a pro tip. But if you study this, you'll see that I did something which Gemini told me was not cool, but I did it anyway because I liked the result. Has to do with a certain bus. Which of these is not like the other, sort of thing. See if you can pick it out. All right. So that's the AB, the Console 8 AB, and I'm telling you, man, like I love Console 8. I've tried other Airwindows console systems. This is my favorite so far. The others are more simple and straightforward. There's often just like just a channel out and a bus in. I think that's the way most of them are. Okay, Console 8 is an outlier. I think it's the most complicated one, even though once you get it, it's not that complicated. Okay, so Vinyl Bear from lowly, humble Vinyl Bear Studio in lovely, scenic Padre City, South Korea. May the winds of clarity blow ever in your favor. Peace out. Over and out.